Yeah, right. I'll do the artificial intro that I hate. I feel like Americans are naturally enthusiastic and Brits are quite dour. And the difference when we're on a podcast together is very notable. It's weird. Right, how do I even do this? Hello and welcome to Wretched, the Wretched and Alone podcast, where we talk about Wretched and Alone games and do terrible introductions. I have a fantastic guest today, and I'm going to let you introduce yourself because I'm terrible at this. If you could tell everyone your name, what pronouns you use, and what you're all about.
Hi, I'm Jess Marcrum. A lot of people know me as Jess or Angry Nerd Girl. I use she, her pronouns, and I write games and adventures and supplements. And they usually involve cats or something equally fluffy, sometimes something a little bit horrifying.
Cats can be horrifying.
Yeah,
They frequently are horrifying.
yeah, especially one of mine.
So your Wretched and Alone game is one of my favourite Wretched and Alone games.
Really?
Really, genuinely is.
You say that to all the girls.
I do. And the guys, I don't discriminate.
Oh,
Um,
really,
I
thank you.
I really love games that do funky things with the tower, and the idea of replacing the tower with a cat is possibly the best thing I've seen in Wretched and Alone. So your game is called Operation Cat Chat, and it describes itself as a game about being alone with someone who doesn't quite understand you. And for those who don't know the game or haven't played the game or seen the game, that person is a cat. Um, can you talk? How would you sell this game to somebody? How do you describe Operation Cat Chat? What's your elevator pitch?
So Operation Cat Chat is basically it's a solo player game. It helps if you have a cat, but if you don't have a cat, you can play with a dog or any fluffy animal that tolerates your presence.
Any
Um,
consenting animal?
yes, any consenting animal. Um, and basically, the premise is that you have been quarantined and you're running out of money and you can't leave the house and you have cut off your internet and your phone because you can't afford them anymore. And it's been a few weeks, and the only other person or creature you've had to talk to is your cat. And you decide that there's no time like the present to learn how to speak cats or learn how to speak cat. Sorry. So, by talking to your cat, you plumb the depths of their mind and reminisce on the pre quarantine times and find out what cats are really all about.
Would I be right in saying that when you wrote this game, you had been furloughed and had spent quite a lot of time alone with your cat?
So, I sort of, I'm working from home.
Okay.
And I actually live with my partner, but he went back to work uh, a while ago, fairly quickly. So I've I have not left the house really, except once to put one of our cats down, who
Oh,
unfortunately passed
damn.
during quarantine. But I'm immunocompromised and I'm a high risk person. So except for that one day, I haven't left the apartment since March.
Shit.
And yeah, so I am home most of the day with just our cats and now our one cat, the one who's on the cover of Operation Cat Chat for company.
Fantastic. I feel like with Wretched and Alone games, you can chart the progress of 2020 with them because
Hmm.
the Wretched was very much me reacting to the beginning of COVID and the stress of that, and then like
Yeah.
Operation Cat Chat is very much like it's been 4 months. I'm alone with a cat. Send help. I was reading it today. I looked over it again today before we recorded this, and I really love that the game kind of simultaneously knows it's kind of silly, but also takes itself very seriously. Like there's before you even start playing, there's this tone that you're stepping into some really like weird territory, and you're not quite sure how to approach the game, like whether it's meant to be funny or whether it's actually meant to be quite serious. Was that something you
Mhm.
intended?
So I know that solo player games, and particularly the Wretched games, can be really triggering for a lot of people. And in my day job, I'm a trauma therapist. Well, I'm a social worker, and my specialty is trauma and trauma recovery. So I'm always hyper attuned to that kind of thing. And so I'm always very much like, hey, use safety tools. But for Wretched and Alone, I was like, hey, for real, like I almost put in like a whole page of grounding techniques. And then I was like, don't put your day job into this stuff.
Fair.
And be like, here's ways to cope with trauma. Because I was like, I'm not, that actually gets into squicky licensing things for me. Because it's like, I'm not actually your therapist.
Yeah,
So I
you
just
can't
put
actually give
links.
advice.
Yeah. So it's just like, here's links to places with grounding tools if you need help. So, but trauma is a real thing, and bringing up some of the stuff can be sketchy. But at the same time, the premise of the game is that you are learning how to psychically communicate with your cat, who may or may not be an alien. So, which is just a friggin' weird premise anyway. But the stuff that we're talking about could get heavy. So it's a weird game.
That's one of the things that made me really think, like when I was reading it, that made me go, oh shit, what is the tone of this game? Because like under your what section, like
What
what is this
is the
game?
tone of this
Yeah,
game?
like it's a very serious description of what the game is that also includes the words, especially if your cat is actually part of a vast alien conspiracy to overtake the planet, but maybe they're not. I just was like, this is amazing. And I like that you put cat safety tools in as well.
I
It's such
did.
a nice touch.
Well, because I don't want people hassling their cats. Cats, I don't know. They deal with enough from us.
And yeah, like does the cat might know they're playing a game. They might not know they're playing a game.
Right. And if your cat wants to, I'm like, can I swear on your podcast?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, I was like, if your cat just wants to fuck off and like go do something else, like don't be mad at your cat that they don't want to play anymore.
Right?
Game's done. Cat's done.
I really like the so like obviously the Wretched games quite often have counters on the Ace of Hearts that you take off, and I really love that you accounted for the fact that the cat might just decide to eat all the counters.
Yeah. Yeah, and then your cat's helping you win.
Yeah, sort of. I
Yeah,
do a
if all the
lot.
counters are cat treats or cat toys, and your cat's like, I want all of those because I'm a fat cat and I see 10 treats and I want to eat them all right now, then congrats, you won.
So what happens in the event that you play Operation Cat Chat, the cat eats all the treats, and then the cat throws up the treats? Do you still treat that as there being 10 counters on the Ace of Hearts?
Ooh. I would say that you still won, but you're being watched.
Yeah, but the cat conspiracy know what you're doing.
Yeah, they know you're on to them. They're not starting their invasion yet, but you are on a list.
That's amazing. I do a lot of editing on these things because I'm all over the place with them a little bit. When we recorded with Intricaso, like he's done it for 7 years, and he's so good at like knowing what a finished podcast should sound like and just making it happen first time, and I am not there. I am not at that stage of this shit.
So I will say, one of my weird ass inspirations for this game was Disney's The Cat from Outer Space, which was
Okay.
a movie that came out in the 60s. That was one of my favorite movies when I was a little kid. I think we wore that out, like the VHS at our local store. And I probably haven't seen it since I was like 7, but it is on Disney Plus. So if you have that, give it a watch and learn about the cat
I have
conspiracy.
never heard of that.
Most people haven't. It's weird. It came out around the same time as like the Shaggy Dog and I think the original Nutty Professor.
Amazing. When I read the words cat conspiracy, my brain immediately went to that movie Cats and Dogs.
Oh yeah, I didn't see that, but one of my friends loved it.
It's okay. So this is one of the few Wretched and Alone games that actually has an achievable win condition. Because your two win conditions are you physically bond with your cat and you get some very cute cat pictures or videos.
Yeah, even if you lose, you still win.
Yeah, like it's possible to win and lose at the same time. Like, the real prize was the friends we made along the way kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And I really liked, like, I read the first win condition that you physically bond with your cat, and I was like, oh, that's nice. And then I read your prompts, and that's actually like a mechanical thing in the game.
Yeah.
That's not just you feel a bit closer to your cat, that's a part of the game.
Yeah. Instead of pull a block from the tower, it's pet the kitty.
Pet the kitty.
Which is why your cat might get fed up and leave, because some cats don't like to be pet that much.
Yeah, one of your setup instructions is track down the kitty.
Yeah.
Your cat's in the house somewhere. Go find it.
Go find your cat.
So,
do your setup where your cat is comfy and likes to hang out.
Yes. Put a piece of newspaper on the floor and play the game there. Does your cat do that?
Handy for the cat to sit in.
My cat used to sit on anything paper shaped. So
really?
If it was if you were reading a newspaper, he'd come and sit on it. If you were reading a book, he'd come and sit on it. So if you wanted to sit and read a book, you had to find a newspaper and basically start to read that so that he'd sit on it and then put it on the floor with him on it. And then you could sit and read a book.
Oh my gosh.
He was a little shit.
Tony, my cat, who's on the cover of Operation Cat Chat, loves boxes.
Mm-hmm.
So we have boxes all over our living room right now. And he'll just kind of hop from box to box.
That's amazing. So I read someone's left a public review on Itch, because for some reason on Itch you can't always see reviews, but some people do leave them as comments.
Luciella organized a game swap for the Wretched and Alone game, so
yes,
that was the person who got my game.
Awesome. And that's a really, really good review. And one of the bits that stood out to me says, I found myself journaling about a lot of topics that I otherwise wouldn't have been thinking about, and the game got real personal real quick. It made me rethink a lot of the relationships I had pre-quarantine and why I had them. And I guess that was kind of the intention of the game for you.
Yeah.
Is that something you were aiming for quite strongly?
It kind of came out as I was writing it, because at first, I always think I'm bad at horror games, and I wanted to do the Wretched and Alone game. And I was like, oh, I'm so bad at horror games. I'm bad at stuff like that. I'm just going to make a cat instead of a tower. And you were like, that's great. And then as I started thinking about like, well, what would you do with your cat? And then I was like, damn, you would just be really that lonely to want to talk to your cat. And I started thinking for that section, I think it's, I should know my own friggin' game better.
Oh, I have people talk to me about the mechanics of Wretched and Alone games all the time, and I have to go and check in the SRD to see what they're talking about. So don't worry.
I'm like, it's one of the whichever one it is that has you think about your life beforehand and the relationships you used to have. And it's like, when is the last time that you like saw a dog and pet a dog? When is think of your favorite place you used to go, like a coffee shop, and write about that. And I was like, what would I be doing if I could not be in this house? And what are things that I used to do and enjoy? And writing it got pretty personal for me. It's a list of here's things that I want to do. And then writing the cat section was kind of fun and silly, because it was like, first, here's things that your cat does that are weird. Play with your cat, and then also your cat might be an alien.
Which could be true in real life as well. We don't know.
It's true.
I think
if you could talk to your cat, they might tell you. But
yeah, I don't think scientists have figured out what cats are for.
I mean, so I don't remember if I included this. I think I did include this in the game. That cats crying for food is the same frequency as a human baby's.
You did include that, and that terrified me. I googled that when I read that, because I was like, that can't be true. That's horrifying.
they're also the same size and weight as most human newborns. So they're basically the perfect creature for us to want to bond and care for.
So when people say
we're infiltrating us as aliens, and they have big eyes, like their eyes are the same size as a human baby's, even though they have teeny tiny heads.
So when people say that we domesticated dogs and cats domesticated us, that's really true.
It really is. Although I've read something that was like humans and dogs kind of domesticated each other.
Yeah, I'd read that. That we kind of evolved simultaneously.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. I'm not an evolutionary biologist. I'm a goddamn writer, so I don't know.
Yeah.
Who knows? If you are an evolutionary biologist, please don't at me.
At Chris.
Oh, God. Please don't.
Tell him all about dogs.
I'm so happy that I'm the one editing this podcast. So, I said that this is one of my favourite Wretched and Alone games. One of the reasons for that, a lot of the games that I really like, they have a really kind of well-defined theme or kind of message they want to get across, and they use the debrief section to really kind of drill that home. And when I was reading the
it actually kind of slaps you in the face.
Yeah, it's like a goddamn hammer to the face. I'm gonna read it if that's all right with you.
Yeah, go ahead.
The debrief section for Operation Cat Chat, a silly game about living on your own with a cat during quarantine, says, and I quote, "Governments who give their citizens a small payout but refuse to freeze rent, provide free healthcare, or provide food during a pandemic when no one can work are immoral. Corporations who furlough their employees and apply a no-compete clause to prevent freelancing are forcing their workers to starve while executives accrue wealth. The rich profit from pandemics and the rest of us are dying. The game is rigged against you. What are you going to do about it?" Fuck. I mean, you're not wrong.
Yeah. I actually wasn't furloughed like that, but a dear friend of mine was. And found out after, it was either after they had an interview or right before they were going to go to an interview, that because of their furlough, they had a no-compete clause. So they were just stuck.
That's such bullshit.
Yeah. And so that inspired that. Because I was like, what are you supposed to do?
Guess I'll just die.
Right? So they have other income. Like that friend is an artist and a writer. So they're supplementing their work with that. But yeah, like it's disgusting how so many governments are handling the pandemic, and I clearly have a lot of feelings about it.
Really, yeah. I didn't realize that I had a lot of feelings about it until I kind of compared the Wretched and Go Alone and the games that I was writing pre-pandemic, and went, oh, maybe this is getting to me more than I thought it was.
Yeah.
Why do these games feel so cathartic to write? So, Operation Cat Chat's great.
Thank you.
You also just released the Big Book of Cats for 5th edition.
I did.
Do you want to talk about that?
Sure. Oh, I just wanted to add one more thing first about the Wretched.
Yes, please.
So I was inspired because I've read so many of the other Wretched and Alone games when I was prepping for this one. I read like Clever Girl and Final Girl. A lot of girl games. Those are both really good. I recommend them.
They are.
But they all include that this game wasn't fair kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And when I was thinking about this, because yeah, the mechanics that you set up for Wretched and Alone aren't fair. They're set up to not win. But like the situation we're in right now isn't fair. Like people are dying in mass. Sorry, I'm about to get all heavy on your podcast.
No, go for it.
But because the government has set us up in a system that isn't fair to the people who live in it.
Yeah.
And when I was thinking about the game, I was like, well, yeah, the game isn't fair, but that's not even what it's about. Like the mechanics aren't fair because the whole world isn't fair right now.
Yeah. I mean, someone has brought this up to me, and this is something that I'm working on. I'm working with Matt and I are working with a kind of safety consultant to redo the SRD, because someone
Hmm.
had mentioned that getting to the end of the game that you've been playing and then being told actually there was no way you could win this game is for some people, or could potentially for some people, be quite triggering, because it does mimic the way marginalized people are set up to fail and told if you just
Mhm.
do this, this, and this, you will succeed when there's no chance of them succeeding. And that's
Yeah.
obviously that's something that I overlook because I'm a white guy,
Yeah.
right? So we are working to address that, and I don't know how I'm going to address that at the moment because that work's still ongoing.
Hmm.
But I like you say, I think that is a reflection of the world we're living in for everyone right now, right? I don't know.
Yeah. It's not fair. I'm sure the very few people who are profiting think that it's fair
Yeah,
because they've rigged it to win. But it's not fair. And there's a couple of people who always imagine that they could be those people at the top who are like, no, it's fair. You just have to work hard enough.
yeah. The world is set up so that you always think that you're further away from poor people and poverty than you are, and closer to being a billionaire than you are, when the line between being comfortable and being homeless on the street with no money is, for example, a global pandemic when nobody can work.
Yeah.
That's all it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of bullshit.
Yeah, it is.
But on the other hand, cats.
Yeah. And you get cute cat videos.
You get cute cat videos. The internet has been full of cat videos for at least 20 years, and this is why. We need it now.
We really do.
The hero we need, whether we want it or not.
But
So, big
yeah,
book of
big book of
cats.
cats. So that's something that so for wow, almost a year now. It's been a while. I've been making Tabaxi subclasses for DM's Guild for D&D. So they're basically cat folk D&D subclasses. I started with the College of Caterwauling, and I've been making those with David Marcuski and Kat Evans. And our plan is to make them for every. Oh, here's Tony,
Oh,
Clover Boy for Operation Catch Up. Hi, you want to come? You want to come be on the camera? Probably not. Split my feet. Come here. He knows I'm gonna pick him up. Oh, I caught you. He's shy.
he's very shy. He's
He
cute,
wants
though.
food.
Nobody listening to this will be able to see him.
I know, but he is cute. You want to say
He is
something?
cute.
Can I hold you until you say something?
And I'll cut out the
No,
gap so that it sounds like he spoke on command.
you're not gonna talk. You've been so loud all morning. Now you're not. You yelled at your dad all morning. Now we're just gonna struggle. Okay. Um,
I guess we haven't learned to speak cat yet.
no, we haven't. He just screamed all morning. Hey,
Oh, there he is.
yeah. What's up? What else you want to say? Sorry.
I'm so happy we got Tony to talk on the
Yeah,
podcast.
I was like, I just need you to say something.
That's
My
going to
little
stay
waddles. Um,
in. Amazing.
uh, so we've been doing these Tabaxi subclasses, and yeah, it started with the College of Caterwauling. It's me, Kat Evans, and David Marcuski, and so our plan is to do all. There 10 D&D classes? I think so.
Yes.
I should know.
I should know. I don't know.
That
Yeah.
sounds right. So I was making the Druid, who is the Circle of Catnip Druid.
Yes.
And one of their key abilities is that it's kind of they get things having to do with sunlight. They do some stuff with catnip charms, but I wanted to give them kind of a nerfed wild shape because they're still getting all these spells. So they can wild shape into things that are not beasts as long as it is a feline. And also they can wild shape into higher CR creatures quicker, kind of like the Circle of the Moon, as long as it is a feline. And Kat and David wisely brought up, there are not that many cats in the Monsters Manual. So you should probably make a few to go with this.
It's a crime.
I know. It's also a crime that the cat in the Monster Manual does not have dark vision. So I corrected that.
So what we're saying is that the people who designed 5th edition D&D don't own cats, don't live with cats.
Yeah, they give Tabaxi dark vision, but they don't give cats dark vision.
So odd.
So they're like, you should probably make 5 or 10 extra cats they can go with. And so I made 40 and then realized it was a book. And then I messaged Zan Larson and Tallulah Cunningham because they're both wonderful artists. And before, when I was just tweeting about Tabaxi, they were like, I need to draw this, and did some cute art. So I was like, hey, do you want to just sketch cats for a while and be in a book? Just cats, maybe just 1 or 2. And then they ended up nearly fully illustrating the whole thing.
It's
between the 2 of them and David, almost all of the fantastical cats are fully illustrated, all 20 of them, and about half of the regular cats, like ocelots and palace cats and stuff.
Yeah, it's a really gorgeous book. Like the the cats playing with the page numbers on every page are amazing.
David, I love it.
It's stunning. I really, really love it. And the some of them are horrifying as well. Like the cat
kind of my aesthetic.
The Kraken cat is just upsetting to look at.
Oh yeah, Tallulah did a great job with that one.
I really love that whole section of mythical and kind of monstrous cats that you've got at the end. Was that Tony again?
Oh no, that was me with my chair. Sorry.
Oh right.
Yeah, a lot of those are taken from mythology.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, I found a lot of really weird cat myths, like the cat Palug, the cat who defeated King Arthur and stole his throne for a while.
I don't know that one.
I think more people should learn about him when we learn about King Arthur.
I agree.
Got killed in a bog by a cat who then ruled Camelot.
All right, maybe that's going to be my Folklore Jam game.
Yeah, so the cat Palug was born to a pig named Henwin and ate 1,000 nights a day and lived in the water, like swam out of the ocean and then lived in a bog. And then King Arthur was like, stop killing and eating 1,000 nights a day. And the bog was like, or the cat was like, well, screw you, King Arthur. I'm king of Camelot now. And then eventually Sir Kay was like, no, you're not. And killed the cat, which I think is some Sir Kay Stan who wrote that.
So
it's apparently a French Arthurian legend.
Yeah.
Which to me sounds like the French were like, England is so bad, they were ruled by cats.
Yeah, because the Arthurian legends that everyone knows are Mallory, and they were written as translations when he was under house arrest. So I guess he just didn't translate that one. I don't know. So. When I was at uni, when I did my undergrad, one of the modules I did was, what was the title of it? High Romance of the Late Middle Ages, which was like Green Knight and Beowulf and Le Morte d'Arthur. I don't remember the cat story at all, and now I feel like I should get a refund on my tuition fees.
It's something that I feel like I'm missing in my education.
I'm so happy that I know about this. That's amazing.
But yeah, some of the other cats are ones that I just made. Like, you gotta have a void cat.
Yeah, gotta have a cactus cat.
Cats are liquid, so I made a liquid cat that's an ooze. When I first started coming up with the book, everybody was sending around those photoshopped cat faces on bees, so I made a Tabax bee.
The Tabax bee made me laugh quite a lot when I saw it. Because you've seen the art that I just had done of a bumblebee that was a bear dressed as a bee as well. I'm a big fan of animals as bees as a trope.
Yes, and Tallulah did really cool art for that, and also the Tabaxby swarm that she made into like it looks like cat, panther, like about to eat something. She based it on bird murmurations.
What's
One
your
of the
sorry, go
weirdest
on.
things I did for that book was like read a lot of Wikipedia and a couple of research articles on cats and then translate them to monster manual style.
Which is that's basically how design works.
Yeah.
Like you do some research and then you turn it into game mechanics.
I feel like I'm usually doing it for like a chimera or something and not like an ocelot.
But ocelots need love as well.
They do. I was so happy when I was doing this book because I learned that they're not endangered anymore.
Oh, that's a good thing. That almost balances out the crushing depression of the first half of this podcast.
Almost. Good job, ocelots.
So, do you have a favorite cat from the book?
Well, the Scream Cat and the Snuggly Cat are both based on my cat Henry, who was the one who passed during quarantine. And Zan did the art for both of them based on pictures of Henry. So those are kind of my favorite, just because when I see them, I get kind of choked up and think of my boy. Although probably my favorite, like just mythological weird cat is the Yule Cat. I'm going to butcher it, but Yolakutrin, who I used in Book of Seasons Solstices, actually. It's a giant Scandinavian Christmas cat who comes and eats you if you didn't get new clothes for Christmas.
So are you meant to buy the new clothes yourself? Or is it just if you didn't get gifted new clothes for Christmas, you get eaten by a cat?
Yep.
I don't know how I feel about
that. It's apparently based on, like, if the wool didn't get taken in time, or if the wool did get taken in time and spun properly, the person who owned the sheep mill, I'm just making up stuff. I'm like, the mill owner of the sheep would gift all of the workers new sweaters. So, but if you were lazy and didn't do your job, or, you know, you had a disability that prevented you from doing your job, or you got sick, or, you know, whatever kept you from finishing your work, then you wouldn't get sweaters because there wasn't enough wool.
I see.
So it's basically a capitalistic
thing.
Like, do your job, or this giant cat who is owned by Gryla the troll, who's another Christmas beastie, will come eat you and your children.
Amazing. Thank you.
So I hate the capitalism part of it, but I kind of love the idea that this cat, who is bigger than houses, just like walks around on Christmas Eve like, did you get socks? Did you get a sweater? Is your fashion up to date?
Have you made fetch work yet?
Sweater. Gotta eat you, sorry.
So, Book of Seasons is up for an Any, right?
Yep.
Which you will find out. We're recording this on Tuesday, and these are on Friday. So by the time this goes out, we will know whether Book of Seasons won an Any or not. What is Book of Seasons for those who don't know?
Book of Seasons is actually 2 books. There's Solstices, which is up for an Any, and Equinoxes. And they are 20 adventures each, based around 2 seasons. So Solstices has summer and winter adventures in it, 10 of each, and Equinoxes has spring and fall adventures. And each tiers 1 through 4. So you can play from level 0 to level 20 in each book, which is pretty cool.
That is cool.
And each adventure has unique art created specifically for it. And it's primarily Uncaged writers. It was almost entirely Uncaged writers. Okay. And then we had somebody drop last minute. So Oliver Clegg came in and wrote an adventure in one night for me.
Of course he did.
It's ridiculous.
Because he's a machine.
But he put it off. So...
Oh, Oliver.
Like, you have this to me in a week, and then he gave it to me, the night before it was due, and he said he wrote it that day because that's what he does. But it's great, and so it's 45 people all working together on these 2 books. We released one on the winter solstice and another on the spring equinox. winter solstice one did a little bit better than the spring equinox one because that was the day that pretty much the whole U.S. shut down due to COVID.
Oh shit. Okay.
Well, it's the day. Guess we'll release anyway. You don't know if you have a job or not, but
at least
here's
you've got
the
all
message.
this free time to play D&D.
Yeah.
So, I went on your website because I'm diligent and do research.
How was it?
It was lovely. It was wonderful.
Thank you.
And I noticed above the very well chosen Maya Angelou quote, your like tagline on your website is fantasy and feminism.
That's me.
And you were involved in the Princess Project.
I was.
Which, as far I haven't seen it yet, but as far as I understand, takes kind of fairy tales that deal with princesses and plays with the tropes in the same way that Uncaged plays with the tropes of monstrosity and female monsters, right?
Yes.
So your adventure is Golden Plates and Golden Rules.
Yep.
What was that? What's that like a retelling of or a reimagining of?
It is based on the earliest tellings of Sleeping Beauty.
Hence the content warning for sexual assault. Okay.
Yep. Because in the earliest renditions of Sleeping Beauty, she doesn't wake up from being kissed.
Nope.
She wakes up when one of the children that she has given birth to is trying to suckle and pulls the flax that she pricked her finger on out of her finger.
Mhm.
And then the king is like, yay, we can get married now. Forget my wife at home. And
as fairy tale kings are wont to do.
Yeah. So in this one, and then the wife tries to cook her and her kids in a stew, and it's a whole thing. So this takes place after that. Sleeping Beauty has basically secured the line of succession and killed the king.
Excellent. Good.
And, yeah. But everyone that she ever knew is dead. And she's ruling a kingdom she doesn't know. She's 20 and is like pretty pissed off at the fairy that cursed her.
Yeah.
And so she hires the adventurers to go bring her that fairy's head.
Amazing.
And the adventurers get there, and the fairy has no idea that Sleeping Beauty is still alive because she cursed her to die, not to sleep for 100 years. And she's like, that's horrifying, this poor girl. And it becomes a whole thing. So the Golden Rules part is gets very into like Fae contract law and the binding of Fae contracts. So she's like, look, they broke the rule and I gave the appropriate curse. And that's just how it is. Like, if you could kill me if you want to. It's a very hard fight. I don't recommend it. Like, I can't change the law. I just adhere to it. You can go see about changing the rules if you want to. So then they can take an excursion to the Feywild to meet Vermilion Tackington, who
That's
is
a hell of a name.
Thank you. He's a fairy dragon who is in charge of the Feywild bureaucracy, and convince him to change the rules if that's what they want to do. I've had some players convince him to just go on vacation entirely or give up the life and meet up with his old boyfriend. I've had people try and kill the fairy and it didn't work out for them.
Nope.
But it's kind of the point was that things are always more complicated.
Yeah.
And the fairy is definitely not a good person. Like, she's I hate alignment, but because we had to use it. She's lawful evil.
Okay.
Like, emphasis on the lawful.
Yeah. My favorite thing about everything you've just said is I'm picturing how that would all play out. And obviously this is 5th edition D&D. So you go into the Feywild, you don't know when you're coming back, right?
Yeah.
I have this vision now.
Vermilion can get you back out if you were nice to him, but through a portal. But if you decide to fight in the was it the She Stipulation Center, there is you end up fighting, I think, 15 pixies and 20 fairy dragons.
Okay.
But then you're stuck in the Feywild and wanted for mass murder.
I'm just picturing a party going, all right, cool. Sleeping Beauty slept for 100 years. This is terrible. We're going to go and write this. They go into the Feywild, they do their shenanigans, and then they come back out, and the DM rolls, and they've been in the Feywild for 1,000 years, and she's dead when they come back.
I love that. I love that.
Yeah, that wouldn't be satisfying as a player, but
It wouldn't, but it would be very cool.
yeah.
Like, psych, everyone you know is dead now.
Oh God.
How's it feel?
Yeah. Do you want to go back into the Feywild and talk about this some more? I really love fairy tale stuff, and I think D&D does it so poorly. Just in terms of how it's set up in the books and how it's supported. People working on the DM's Guild and stuff have done good things with it, but
Yeah.
I would love to see it done really well.
One of the most fun campaigns I ran was Princesses Save Dragons. That was a not Disney adventure of princesses, fairy tale princesses, not Disney, going around and rescuing baby dragons. And
Amazing.
that was, we used 5e, but also like, I'm so lax in my games. I'm like, yeah, you want to use this from the guild, like you want to do this homebrew thing, I don't care, as long as you're having fun, go ahead.
Uh-huh.
So we did a lot of weird, wild stuff, and just being able to mash like Alice in Wonderland together with 101 Dalmatians, with what else did we have in there? Oh yeah, of course, like the Little Mermaid and Lady and the Tramp, and the Rescuers, and the Great Mouse Detective, and having them
Amazing.
all like in the same world, like going from place to place.
That's so much fun. I think Disney has a lot to answer for with regard to how people think about fairy tales now,
Yes.
because like even the grim fairy tales are kind of sanitized, the later grim ones, but the Disney versions just suck out everything that's like important about them.
I remember reading this book in high school called Spinning Straw into Gold.
Hmm.
And it basically was talking about how fairy tales at the time were imparting lessons. That
Yeah.
this is going to sound really obvious to you, but how each fairy tale was kind of like, these are life lessons you need to learn. Like, so Beauty and the Beast was a fairy tale that was generally told to young, noble girls, not horror girls. So, like, you're going to marry in the original Beauty and the Beast, for anybody who doesn't know, the Beast is nice. But every night he's like, will you sleep with me, Belle? And she's like, no. And eventually he wears her down. And either in a rich house and she's taken care of. And the idea was that you're probably going to marry a very old, unattractive, wealthy man, but give it time and you'll fall in love with him.
Yeah, they were kind of largely morality tales, so a lot of it is like, don't go into the woods on your own, and if you do, don't come off the track because you'll get eaten.
Yeah.
But yeah, Spinning Straw into Gold is a really. I actually read that for my dissertation. That's what's her name?
I've
Joan
never met
Gould.
anyone else who read that book. I'm so excited.
So we talked about this slightly beforehand. My dissertation was on representations of motherhood in fairy tales and in their retellings. So Spinning Straw into Gold is all about which you know because you've read it, is all about the choices and like changes that women have to face every day in their life, and about the kind of the juxtaposition between the private battles that women face and the public roles that you have to embody, right? I think
Yeah.
it's been a while since I read it. I can't fully remember.
I remember really liking her take on Sleeping Beauty being a metaphor for just like Sleeping Beauty and Snow White both being kind of like a metaphor for menstruation or something that was like, you will have a period where you just have to wait.
Yeah.
And then you'll be an adult. And then it's okay. And I was like, I don't know if I like 1,000% buy it, but I really like that reading.
Yeah. I mean, fairy tales really, because we're so divorced from the culture and the context that they were kind of birthed in.
Yeah.
They're so open to any kind of reading you want to spin them into. You can give them a feminist reading, you can give them a Marxist reading. I was really interested in ideas of gender and performative gender, which you can get so much out of fairy tales about.
Yeah.
I don't know where I'm going with this.
I remember reading a bunch of Grimm tales specifically for a class that we basically studied how the Nazis came to power in Germany by looking at the context of German history and the way that anti-Semitism had been kind of seeded into German culture from early on. It wasn't just like Hitler showed up and it was like, oh, we're all Nazis now.
Uh-huh.
So seeing some of the anti-Semitism in fairy tales like the Jew in the Thorn Bush.
Yeah,
And
that's that one gets reprinted a lot in collections of Grimm fairy tales, and I understand why people reprint it because it's kind of important contextually to know that it was there, but
also, oh my God.
yeah, it's so like blatant.
Yeah. And so when you read that and we're like, oh, this is something that was told to children for centuries, it's easier to understand. It doesn't excuse it, but you're like, oh, this is part of the culture. This is, where what was shaping people's minds from a young age.
Yeah. So there was a lot of talk when Rime of the Frost Maiden was announced and they released that.
About wombs?
Yeah, and they've basically played with Maiden Matron Crone, but done it really ham-fistedly because the team leading it are men for the most part. I really feel like they could have done with maybe reading Spinning Straw into Gold before they designed that, actually, because I think it explicitly deals with that idea of Maiden Mother Crone, Maiden Matron Crone, even.
Yeah. Yeah. That was like one of my few tweets that went viral. So I had a lot of thoughts on that one. There's other archetypes to explore besides that one. That's such a I know that there's a purpose to Mother Matron Crone. Mother Maiden Crone. There's been a lot done with it. It's, so prevalent for a reason, but also kind of sucks reducing a whole gender to their fertility or their like what we can do with babies.
Yeah.
And then taking that and removing the entire personhood from the matron and making it just she's not a mother. She's just a womb. She's just where the baby lives.
Literally just a disembodied womb.
Which is how some Republican congressmen view us.
Yeah. And I think my issue with it is that they have explicitly turned it into a monster.
Yeah. You punch a woman until she's just a womb.
Yeah. Like,
we haven't seen it yet. Maybe the womb releases monster babies. That could be cool.
Maybe. Yeah, I think so their defense of this was you haven't seen the context. And on the one hand, yeah, that's totally fair. On the other hand, maybe don't release a preview that needs context.
That's exactly what I was going to say. On the other hand, this is what you released as a preview. If you're releasing something as a preview, it's supposed to be, hey, look at this cool thing.
Yeah.
Not like you need to read 20 pages to really understand what's going on here.
It's so...
Like the werewolf that they released. That's a cool thing. It's a werewolf. He wears earrings. I like that wolf.
This is a kind of a prime example for me about why it's important to have diverse teams, right? Because this is a team led by men and they've dropped the ball heavily with a very basic trope. And then you look at something like
But nearly all of the writers are non-men, and I feel so bad because they're getting the flack.
Yes, but I don't think the fault is on the writers at all. I think it's on the leaders.
I don't either.
Compare it to something like Bluebeard's Bride, which handles these topics really sensitively and really well. And
I actually wrote a paper for my master's on Bluebeard's Bride. It was for a class on so I think I said at the top, yeah, I'm a social worker. I do trauma and stuff. So it was for a class on intimate partner violence. And so we had to do a paper on representations of intimate partner violence in the media and how accurately it's portrayed and like what the average viewer or person interacting with the media takes from it, and also how a victim might react to it. So pretty much everybody was doing, I think, that HBO show with Nicole Kidman and
Big Little Lies.
Yeah. Everybody was doing that, and because that had just come out. But I did Bluebeard's Bride, and then I realized I had to devote half of the paper to this is a tabletop role-playing game.
This is what Powered by the Apocalypse is. That's really cool that you got to do that. One of my favorite hobbies.
I got to play a game for my master's, like running it in an educational context. So our debrief was also like talking about the points, like, so how did you feel about this? Those of you who are survivors who aren't like, we didn't disclose, but I had a mixed group of survivors and mixed gendered players who were there. Talked about like what was triggering, what wasn't, how it affected different groups of people, which was cool.
That's cool. But yeah, that was my immediate thought when I saw how Wizards had dropped the ball on this. That it could have been handled with so much sensitivity, and they could have done something really. Because they've said that the whole campaign is exploring ideas of ecological disaster and climate change and stuff like that. So they obviously have a political message they want to get across with it. It seems silly to have ignored the rest of the politics in the book.
Yeah. I think it also kind of just blew up the way it did because they released that like the day after, a couple days after they made their statement of inclusivity.
Oh, they did, didn't they?
Yeah. Which I know that they can't, like, they wrote that book probably a year ago.
Yeah.
You know, but also they could have maybe sat on releasing that tidbit or something.
Yeah.
Like, I know they can't delay the book or something, but, you know, there's a little bit you could do with timing. Can't do everything with timing. But
you can push it a day.
Yeah.
I didn't intend for us to get derailed by taking a shit on Wizards of the Coast. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about?
Hey, I'm running 2 game jams. One of them is like my first jam that I've ever run all by myself. So everybody sign up for it.
Let's talk about game jams.
Yeah, I'm co-hosting Folklore Jam. I got invited to co-host that, which is pretty exciting. And the other one is Fluffy Horror Jam, which is basically my aesthetic. And if you play Operation Cat Chat, that's kind of what it's all about. So if you want to make fluffy horror games with me, come sign up. The jam starts at the end of August and runs until the end of September.
So actually, this will come out right at the beginning of August, I think. Well, with the beginning of August now, this will come out next week. So this is going to come out the 7th of August.
It's July right now. Don't rush me.
Sorry. So when does Folklore Jam run until?
So Folklore Jam runs until August 30th.
So yeah, this will come out on the 7th, and people will have 3 weeks to make a game for Folklore Jam.
Yeah.
I will 100% put a link to both those jams in the show notes. Cool. I've already... So you only announced Fluffy Horror Jam today?
Yeah. It already has 33 people joined. That's awesome.
I'm one of them.
I'm so
I
glad.
I already
I'm one of them
know.
too.
Yeah. Imagine if you didn't make a game for your own jam, like say me with Treasure Jam.
I made a game for your Treasure Jam.
You did. I just
I was going
shouted
to,
that
but
down the
you
mic.
specifically said it was for your birthday, and I wanted to give you a present, so I gave you treasure tables.
You did, and I enjoyed that thoroughly.
And they were basically a joke because you said you wanted shinies, and I was like, "What if I just gave you hugs and good feelings?" I literally did that.
Everybody needs hugs and good feelings.
Treasure is the friends we made along the way. I mean, yeah, it's like a cup of coffee and a poop from a snoot,
Who doesn't want that?
right?
I think the game I'm going to make for. So I'm going to be lazy under a veil of pretending I'm a genius. And I'm going to make a game both for Folklore Jam, which, for people who haven't looked into it yet, asks you to make games based around the folklore of your own country or culture, and Fluffy Horror Jam, which asks you to make fluffy horror games.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to make a game, I think, about Selkies and maybe do some weird body horror with fur. We'll see. I don't know what the game's going to be yet, but I'm excited for it.
I love it. And I just did some research on Selkies for another project that I'm doing, and so much of it is just like, yeah, she's a naked girl, but she hangs out with seals, except for when she's also a seal. That's what Selkies are. They're hot. It's the thing about them. They need to marry a man. But Selkie men are also kind of hot, so just Selkies are hot. It's like, huh.
I think I might lean really hard in the opposite direction. Like, make Selkies horrific again.
I love it.
Yeah, I can't wait.
I support your laziness. I definitely
Thank
put
you.
Operation Cat Chat into Attack and Dethrone God Jam.
Yep.
Too.
Somebody did a game that hit both Wretched Jam and Treasure Jam, and I had a lot of respect for that. It's also a
Ooh.
really good game as well. It's by Speak the Sky, and it's called The Death of Numismus.
Okay.
And it uses a tarot deck rather than like normal cards, and it uses a tower of coins rather than a Jenga tower. And it's about the slow but sudden death of the god of coin, whose vault is kind of being targeted by adventurers, and whose like facets of their divinity are falling prey to rival gods.
I love that.
It's very cool. And it's a really beautifully presented one as well, which makes me so mad.
Don't you just hate people who are good at layout?
I hate them.
So you can tell that I have someone do my layout for my DM's Guild stuff. Thank you so much, David, for always being there for me. Versus my itch stuff, which I do myself. I think Operation Cat Chat is by far my prettiest game on itch.
I like it. I like the big shiny blue hearts in it and the little cat page numbers.
I was so proud that I figured out how to do that in Word.
That's in Word. Nice.
Yeah, I did that. I do all of my stuff in Word or Google Docs.
When I first started
Word
out,
actually lets you put in alt text for screen readers, so I'm trying to do it in Word
cool.
now. Google Docs doesn't let you do that.
You know what? I need to start doing that. When I first started out doing stuff, like when I was doing Breaker of Chains, I did it all in Word, and I wanted different page backgrounds for different pages. So I saved each individual page as a PDF and then added backgrounds to each individual page in Adobe Acrobat because I didn't know how else to do it.
I feel that.
Do not
I want to hug
recommend.
you. I mean, I've done things, I think for squad goals, I made it in Word and then couldn't figure out how to do the cover the way that I wanted it. So I did the cover like in Canva, the cover page or something, and then was like, oh, and here's the janky cover the way I made it in Word.
Yeah. Like I occasionally get people messaging me about things like Breaker of Chains and Bullet Storm to say, oh, here's a mistake I spotted, and I think I could fix that, but it would take me a week. So I'm not going to fix that.
No.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to talk about? Because we've been going like an hour, which is really cool.
Yeah. I feel happy.
If you think I was bad at starting the podcast, wait till you hear me try and finish it. I've got no idea what I'm doing.
I think you're doing an excellent job.
Thank you. It's nice to have friends. So thank you so much for agreeing to kind of sit down and chat to me for an hour. This has been really, really fun and really. It's been nice to kind of find out a bit more about why you make the things you make. I always enjoy learning that about people.
Mostly spite and cats.
Spite is a valid reason. I'm going to do a huge giveaway this week purely out of spite.
I'm really excited. I hope I win.
Yeah, someone's going to be really happy, and it's all because I'm sick of. I'm going to cut this out. It's all because I'm sick of. I might leave that in, but censor out the name that I just said. In fact, I definitely will. I definitely will. It's all because I'm sick of boo. Because I'm not a mediocre white man with nothing of value to offer myself. I have lots of things of value to offer, and someone's going to get a physical copy of every single one of them.
Holy shit, that's a great giveaway.
Someone's going to get a physical copy of everything I have in print and a physical copy of every Patreon game I release for the next 6 months.
Oh my gosh.
Because fuck.
Speaking of, if you're listening to this, you should definitely get chicken and chips and Under the Floorboards. They're excellent.
Hey, I knew I liked you. So, I guess one last time, if you could tell everyone who you are, what you've got going on, and where they can find you.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for having me. I want to come back anytime. This was a blast. I'm Jessica Marcrum. You're Jess, sometimes Angry Nerd Girl. You can find me on Twitter at Miss_Jess03 or on Twitch at twitch.tv/Angry Nerd Girl or my website, jessicamarcrumwrites.com. I write games and supplements and adventures, and I stream them.
When do you stream them?
I have a Patreon too, so check that out.
Plug that Patreon.
Patreon, Miss Jess, somewhere in there. You can find it. It's linked on my socials.
Perfect.
I'm so bad at plugging myself.
Me too. How do I even finish a podcast? Wretched Cast has been a production of Loot the Room. You can find me on Twitter at Pangalactic, on Loot the Room at loottheroom.uk. This is so much more awkward because I can see your face while I'm doing this. And you can find the Wretched Cast probably wherever you found it to be listening to this in the first place. I don't know why people say that at the end of podcasts. Thanks for listening. Goodbye.